Kia ora tātou, nau mai hoki mai ki te hui o Māori Standing Committee, tēnei pō. Kai ki te timatanga, tupua, te wairua, kia rere, ki ngā tauranga.
Hei arahi I a tātou mahi, me tā tātou whai, I ngā tikanga, a rātou ngā kia mau, kia hita, kia hoi ai e ngaro, kia pukuri, kia whakamaua, kia tina, kuie, tai.
Health and safety, the emergency exits for the suffer room are clearly indicated. If we need to evacuate the building, use any of the emergency exits and head towards Texas Street and assemble in the playground area. Please remain at the assembly area until the building has been confirmed to clear. Apologies tonight. We have received apologies from Andrea and Carlene. Are there any other apologies? We're expecting Tony Kerr to zoom in, but she hasn't yet. She might come on at some point. I move that apologies from Andrea, Luti and Carlene for Toe be received. Do I have, be received? Yep. Thanks. Do I have a second? Kia ora, Teresa. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Please say Carl.
Not against.
Thank you. Conflicts, are there any conflicts of interest to declare? Does anyone have any acknowledgements or disputes they would like to make? A well-known person in your community who has passed away or made a significant achievement? Anyone, any tributes? Public participation. This evening we have two speakers. You will have 5 minutes each, and actually I'm going to call Shane and John first. Shane Atkinson and John Bushnell of Greytown Trails Trust first to speak, and then Lee, I'll call on you and Harvey, okay? But we have these places. How are you, John?
Good.
Okay, good to see you.
Good koutou. Rangatira mā, tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Kaurau te maunga, ko Whakatipu te moana, ko Mataura te awa, ko Ngāti Pākehā Iwi, hei tia mana ki te puari kaitiaki o te ara kurutawhiti. No he rā, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you for the invitation to talk with you tonight. I understand it's almost exactly a year since Shane, who was doing the job of chairing the Greytown Trails Trust, which he has now given to me, which is a bit of a mixed blessing, but at this time it's actually very exciting because we have an enormous amount going on, and we really just wanted to take this opportunity to update you after 2020 being a pretty bad year for just about everybody, that we've actually got some good things happening and right on the verge of developing. So we thought we'd try and lighten your evening with a good news story. Essentially, I'm sure you would have seen the coverage and the fact that we've got 1.36 million out of the PGF for funding trails and a bridge that will link across the Te Reo River between Featherston and Greytown. And work on that's actually progressing well. I'll keep Shane firmly by my side because he's got all the technical questions in case you ask questions I don't know the answer to, which is highly likely. The process of actually getting underway with the construction of the bridge has been delayed slightly by the fact that there's some technical work going on with the northern ear of the railway bridge, and our walking and biking bridge is only a few metres from that on the eastern side of the railway bridge, and with secure wires tying it back to the piers of the bridge. So we have to wait until that work on the railway line itself is finished before we can actually get in there with heavy machinery and get the construction of our bridge fully underway. But there's been an enormous amount of work going on that Shane has been heavily involved with in terms of ensuring that all of the consenting process is moving forward, and ultimately, of course, when that is at an appropriate point, the council will be involved in looking at that paperwork as the details are presented to you. I think I'll keep our comments really short. We really just wanted to make contact. We have appreciated the support. We wouldn't have got to where we are now had it not been for support both of this committee and more broadly of the council here in South Wairarapa and other councils within the region. Throw things open for questions, see if you've got anything that you'd particularly like to know about.
Well, so that 1.36 million, that's secure. Oh, that's great. And
Ewan, I think, is going to sign the contract tomorrow.
Hopefully, a couple of weeks, yeah.
And is there any more funding needed? No? That's a good news story.
I don't know whether it's appropriate, but I have a question for the committee, or a comment and a question. You'll recall that when I was here a year ago that when Peter suggested that perhaps poles should be set up on either side of the river. And that's an absolutely splendid idea. We'd like to pursue that. And the picture straight off the top of my head would be to set up a carving workshop in Featherston and get a master carver to run that with local kids involved. As I understand it, through the Fab Fairly project, the Department of Internal Affairs has some funding available. So I'm not quite sure how we would make this happen, whether it's for you, for the Featherston community, for us to try and pull this thing together. But it's a thing well worth doing. It's got a whole lot of positive bits to it. Nerida, should we talk to you separately about this? Is that the easiest?
Yeah, because maybe we could do a collective application to Fab Fairly. Yeah, I think maybe we should do that and apply to Mokai and because Papua's the other entity. So maybe we could collectively come together and put an application to Fab Fairly. That might be the go. So, yeah.
Definitely got merit, isn't it?
That'd be great. When are we thinking scheduling a time in the new year now? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just by way of being unhelpful, the way that the provincial growth fund works is that they open the window, you spend the work, you get your bills paid, then they close the window. So if we're going to get this part funded as part of the bridge development, we're going to have to get on spending the money in calendar 2021.
So, and we've talked before, we've talked with Nerida before, specifically how we can incorporate Te Ao Māori within this development and how we can see the manner of the river itself reflect what we're trying to do with bringing people more into connection with it. There's clearly a number of things that we can do. I think the bridge itself will actually get a lot of local attention. It's going to be the second longest suspension bridge of its type in the country. So it's something that will, get a lot of curiosity. A lot of people will be wanting to cross it and be down there and to look at it. So it's kind of like it'll form a focus of attention that can be used in a variety of constructive ways.
Sorry, question to you. Would Kapawai need to be involved in that as well?
It's actually Simon Baker and Holder Munson that are working with these guys to almost that's the narration of the storyline that we got.
Thank you.
So, Kawariki already have a carving sheet that's unutilised, is that correct?
Just one here.
Yeah. And looking at the picture there, I'd like to see some living kind of pose like the Nikau palms. That'd be great. Alongside a pope, yeah, some designs something like that would be good.
Yeah, I think we'll keep the conversation going and talk in the new year. You'll make contact with me sometime in January, mid-January maybe?
Yeah, sure. That'd be brilliant.
And then we'll set up another hui and my second week can attend, and so there's someone older. Yeah, that sounds great. Well, thanks for the update, guys.
Thank you.
Well done. Yeah.
Excellent.
Have a good Christmas.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Hey.
Okay, Lee and Kia ora.
Ati nā koutou e a kura ranga tirama o ngā marae o ngā whānau, te hāpuri. Nei, kanu te dīki a koutou whakawāte, tēnei wahanga, ei harumai ngā tāua, te kōrero tahi. Nā tātou atu.
Well, thank you very much for seeing us and putting us on the agenda. Initially, when I booked this slot, it was to talk around River Valley itself as a name that was, but things have since transpired with time, and as you may be aware, River Valley was recently in the paper as a marketing name only, and property brokers have removed all type of marketing relating to River Valley and that development because of the particular article which I have here for you to read. I don't want to take up any more precious time. I've invited Hami to come along and talk because the area of Wiki is very precious in terms of culture and Māori heritage. And without further ado, I'll just
Thank you. Yeah, I'm conscious we've only got a few minutes, so which is disappointing because it's such a it is a kaupapa that take that has been in the news lately and for good reason, and it needs to have a real considered approach to it. And I think, I personally believe, you are the people to do that. I'd like to first of all introduce myself because there's some people I haven't met. So my name is Hami Tawhiti, which already know. And I belong to Kohunui Marae. I hope we were primarily Ngāti Niwaka, Ngāti Rākai Whakairi, but like all of us, we whakapapa to Wairaka is not a very big place. We whakapapa to all parts of it. I was part of I was involved in establishing this committee a long time ago. I was thinking about that right now in the 1990s after the Resource Management Act came along, and we did the plan then, and then we set up this committee. So I've been involved in it since then, and away from it for various part-times there. I've also sat in the chair at some stage. But this is the first time I've been to a meeting for a very long time since we've been having those sessions with Foss and Karen, Teresa to talk about, which is really related to this kaupapa that we're going to be hopefully having a good look at today. So I thought you haven't read this, I guess. So I just
have
brushed
We
over it.
have,
Oh, you have read it?
well, just tonight.
before the meeting. Yeah.
Right, well, I only gave it to you today. The other thing I had in mind was that I was going to, as I was going to go through this 1.5 pager, with some images, and I thought I was going to be able to hook into a, into a machine, but I could see, and I actually stopped at the council office because I thought I'd forgotten that it was here. So that's where we stand. So we've got an extra copy that I printed out when I realised that this wasn't available to me here. I needed it on my home printer. So I printed a copy out for you, the reader, and then we can, I don't know, but it just really basically supports the things and references some of the things that I've talked about in here. But, there's this is that's the article, really. That's the article. It's got Ty in it from, who's the general manager of Kahunguni's got Lee in there. And it speaks, to defence, Brian, a lot of us, who are at Moiki, used to go past the sign ever since it's been there. And Karen and Richie, we all talked about it, but it was all in silence, Now, we're at the end of it, virtually, but in our view, it's not really the end of it. It's now, come out into the open. But there's a lot of strong depth of feeling about the use of this because of the way that it's constructed. Rapid Valley, it has connotations, Napa Valley as well, the California one, not just what Ty's talking about, the Taranaki and cutting that down. But anyway, the point is that he's apologised for that. But, I don't think it's good enough for that just to happen because, it's once the name is there, like, Mona Jetson, name is the father of things, once it's there, it's very hard to, get rid of it. But it is possible to do that, and that's what this paper is suggesting. I'm not. It's only a suggestion. I didn't want to have a scrap over any of this, or the road naming or anything like that. It's very much a decision that people should make as a community, as being part of the community. And this is, a suggestion that that has been around for a little while because Te Manukāwiri represents a village that was there, basically across the road from this decision from the 1850s. The suggestion is that we get on with it and name the subdivision, give it a name, whether it's Manukāwiri or something else, but an appropriate name. That landscape has got, a lot that's gone on over a long period of time. I highlighted some things that I was going to. So I highlighted some of the native land court minutes. When you'll know that our people ended up in native land court having to argue about rights to land because the Crown grant type things were issued. Only 10 owners were allowed, whereas we see it in retrospect they should have been trustees. You know, they should have been like trustees, representatives of the rest of them, not ending up as being, you know, sole owners of a property. But anyway, so they ended up in court. So, you're right. So they ended up in court, and then they had, you know, they had their debates, and the debates were around the history and, you know, whakapapa. So, you know, there's got generations of whakapapa in it, and all these tipuna occupied the land, and down to the, you know, the 1850s, you know, there's about 6 generations there. So some people might say that, you know, our people only occupied, you know, the coast because it's where they could grow kumara. But, you know, they went all over the place, wherever it is that they needed to go to in search for money. And they might not have had long-term permanent places, but there were occupation areas. And this moiety has actually got a parsite on it, which is referred to in here, an old parsite. And I can remember my, you know, my mum's sister Rana, she used to say, oh, these old nukupiwapiwas parsite up there on the hill, which is, I don't know if it's nukupiwapiwas, but there's definitely, the evidence shows, and the other thing is that it aligns with a map. So this is 1867 survey plan, and that's the, and so you can't see it, but I've overlaid the topographical map, and so it's located. So the road, you know, the road is coming through along here, I think it is, and it's got some names there that are referenced in this in these native land minutes.
Nice.
I mean, this is the sort of thing that, you know, we should, you know, we've identified as needing to be done. If the council, you know, don't have that information, it goes back to the time when our people, and you know, it would have been your father too, Karen, who believed that by leaving them as silent files, that information was protected from people who might go out and grave rob and all that sort of thing. But that's the worst of it. The actual most, and we've talked about this, mostly it's damage that's done because people don't know, you know, through ignorance. The other map is, so I've taken, there's the villages there, and there's a couple of urupa. Council's been involved in one of them, which was landlocked, and I've put the titles in here, and so the village was there. This is the subdivision, and there, this is our land. So that's the, you know, that's the Te Apatu, if you like, land, and that's an urupa. There's another urupa up on the hill, which was the original one. The headstone is down here, and then in the middle there is the area of where this old village was. And it's actually interesting because on here it shows the village, and then surveyors used to draw in little boxes to show the houses, you know, and there's a big surround, which is an interest-like fence right around one of them. So, yeah, Manu Kawari is a nice name. It's so there's birds at both ends, because Manu is a bird, of course, and wedding is can be a flock of birds. So it's like the you know, the kia is the, and it's the it's, you know, I think, you know, probably references the flapping of the wings, yeah, of the birds, you know. So it is beautiful name. But I mean, the summary is there to see, I guess. Do you want me to read it out or not? You can read it. You read it? Well, it's where we think, I mean, that last thing, accepting the name and the position of, it shouldn't be that, and the mana whenua will go a long way to repairing relationships between the Developers Council and Māori that have been damaged in the process of promoting development as Rapa Valley, and will also bring to the fore the willingness of the council to develop better processes to engage with mana whenua and mātauranga Māori in the future. There's also another issue of the road, which Lee might speak to, but you know, it's something that there is some feeling about. I haven't come here myself. This is really, you know, my good is the subdivision itself, and thinking that we can replace the name and have something there that defines that subdivision, so it's no longer Rapa Valley.
I was just going to say, Hami, I remember getting the history of that from Ninawai some time ago.
Yeah.
And I think it was at the time council changed some boundaries to, you had some landlocked land there. Was that right?
I think that's that Urupa. Did you come up on that visit when we went? Yeah. Yeah, it's.
But I mean, look, I totally support what you've got here. I mean,
it was quite sad, that whole situation, because even we saw bricks there when we were, and I think she pointed them out, but that was definitely a grave robbery. It was actually in the newspapers. And several graves were, I mean, they just destroyed all the which were all bricked in, you know, all the tops of them. They just destroyed all that, and it's spread all. It's still there, you know. You can go around the paddock and see all these bricks, and wonder where they come from. And they came from the graves, and so our people took the headstone down to my great-great-grandfather took the headstone down to the one which they opened in the Monty. So it's down there. Yeah. But those are the people that are buried up.
I just wanted to clarify, so that you're actually asking Māori Standing Committee to what exactly?
To engage in support with the name Manukawe as the development name or that site name rather than being the marketing name.
He's invited that. He's invited suggestions for an alternative name. Well, he did it in the paper anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think anybody would have any.
Oh, absolutely not.
But also, it also highlights, because this has been happening a little bit, I think I spoke to both of you about that, you know, it's been happening a little bit quite regularly. And so it does mean that we've got to challenge the policy itself to ensure that the applications and resource consent applications, that they are more in line with the policy. So the policy needs to be reviewed around street naming and bringing in Māori, Te Ao Māori. So that's another side part of it, but I mean, certainly right now we can do this, you know, for you guys and with no hesitation.
So just some final remarks. Thank you, Harvey, for allowing these people to understand more of where we're coming from in terms of heritage and culture, which is really, really important. The significance here for me is not so much challenging the policy, it's embracing what we have to marry with which I would say Pākehā policy. I'm just going to be straight out with that, because I don't know how far that naming policy has been vocalised or engaged with Māori in particular in the past. So but also what this has brought to light for me, being a new owner buying into a subdivision where it is entrenched with this type of history, is that developers need to understand more about the land that they're buying into in order to respect it more. And it could well be that we look at how developers come in and work with council on different land pockets that mean more than, say, other pieces.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe Ewan can talk to us a little bit about that, around the future of applicants, developers wanting to do something like this again, because wouldn't want to see a repeat of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Excuse me. And so as probably already been noted, but council has no mandate or authority to determine what developments are called as such. And so any issues around a private matter between individuals and the developer, but I think there is actually genuinely a role around us who are having those early discussions with developers to make sure that the mana whenua is considered as part of that bidding process. I think that's absolutely correct.
It's probably still even digging into that too. The identified sites, if they're significant sites, there's clearly still a few mechanisms to have them. So, I mean, I know that that's something that I've got to work with you guys on, because it's to do with the spatial plan, long-term plan too. We've got to get these things right for the future generations. Otherwise, they're just going to come up against them, and so we've got this. I guess we've got to do the hard yards now. So yeah, we will be probably coming to engage with you guys around that particular policy and what mechanisms we can put in there so that the alarm bells go off, that the right people get contacted.
Yeah.
But that we have that we're resourced and we have a process, and that we've got a couple of sides to it.
Some of what you're talking about is the work that that we've already been doing with the significant sites and things. And I mean, if that can get greater resourcing and support to be able to get those maps updated and things, then that might go a long way to solving some of these issues right from the outset.
I think that's where they get signal right at the beginning. The submission has been done, and you can work through to the point of I mean that's where we've dropped the ball on this, and I don't think this committee has been was involved in. I mean, this subdivision goes back to 2017 or something. And then there was the other subdivision across the road. I mean, for me, I've only found my way into maps and archives and all that sort of thing. It's a lot easier to actually align those things now. We can do it, but it needs a bit of work, to get them done. But there's lots of places like this, and so you start from there with the relationship with the developer, and they're already understanding what the nature of that property is. Whereas we all dropped the ball on this. It should have been happening right at the beginning, because there's such a significant history in here as well, and we're too focused elsewhere.
I think I read somewhere about a pool of names, that you could just pull something out of the hat at the drop of a hat, but that's not really appropriate, because it needs to be specific to whatever's the place that the thing's happening.
You're right, but the balloon should go up as soon as a developer applies for consent. That's the time we need to. It needs to give this committee time to understand it and find out the issues and help them.
So the district plan, if these sites were registered on the district plan, then that would be obvious to any developer.
Absolutely.
They come into council, they're going to get more layers. What they get.
So that's when the balloon goes up.
So coming back to being a landowner and working, and I feel really but I feel really pleased that I've had that opportunity to be here. The last thing I want to be doing, and this is all I seem to be doing at the moment, is fighting argy-bargy with the council and the developer. When you're buying land, you buy it with the respect that everything is, kosher. For this particular piece, it just feels like we're battling war after war to try and get the right thing done. And so that's why it's really important at the beginning that there's a respect set for both the developer and the landowners and the people who are going to buy into it. Some people won't care, other people will come along like me and will want you know, the right thing done by honouring the land history. So less fighting, more love around it is where I want to focus. And I'll leave it there. I think you've got the big picture of just how it is and how we might work in the future better together.
Can I just ask, please, what about the naming of the actual road?
That is going to be addressed tomorrow night at the Great.
Robert Carter Road?
No. Mummy's family might have something. That's being addressed tomorrow night at the Greytown Community Board, and council have put a paper forward on that, and we will just have to resolve that through presentations, and hopefully the Greytown Community Board will see something come to light there. But it's a very sensitive situation. I don't know what more I can say about it because it's too big to talk about, and we've taken a fair bit of the time now. But I would feel a bit awkward if the subdivision, did come to fruition with Manu Kawe, and we had a completely Pākehā name of the road that had no significance to the area at all. And that's my feel on it.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be where we're going to land tomorrow night, and we can only rely on the Greytown Community Board to maybe do the right thing.
So Robert Carter Road's off the list.
There is a Robert Street here in Martin Road. I think through policy that name's already taken. So you secretly mentioned this.
Sorry, Rob. We'll make a statue of you somewhere.
We'll see through our current copy of this.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's associated with that document. It's not well put together, but it's there.
Gives you an idea.
Yeah, like what I could.
Any other pathway,
Sorry.
I suppose what's the process from here?
How can you intervene on this?
Yeah, well, we can do that bit of support that you guys need for this. And then we've got to really talk with council around moving forward, because we want to make sure that we try and do the best we can right now to protect it and keep it safe, and we create a process that can be worked into the future. Because this is not, 100% it won't be the only one that comes at us. We've got other things that are very similar happening, and so we can only work with council to make sure that certain mechanisms get put into place.
Well, we're not even sure of doing this as a council process. I have sent a message to him here, who I haven't fed back on yet. He might not be able to hear that well. So we're just wondering if someone from the council could allow us to know what is actually the process in this case, if there's even one.
So as I said before, the council process, we can't mandate, we don't have the authority to change the name of the development.
Okay.
Who does?
It's a private matter between individuals and the developer. And I believe anyone that has any concerns that we should express.
I like the model set.
Could do it. Yeah. It's something you do express to the developer. So council has no authority or mandate to insist the change of name for this.
So although the council can't do it, would the Māori Standing Committee as a committee still be able to put we could, still be able to say that we do support
You would support
this particular name?
Yep, absolutely. So again, that's how you're engaging with directly with the developer.
Yeah.
And as has already been made past comment, I think the developer's actually open to that change of name and stuff.
Okay, when do you need to have that from us?
I guess that'll be a match between yourselves.
He doesn't need it, the developer.
I think it comes to us.
Okay.
And then from there, we contact the developer and talk to the developer.
And if you need any of us to, if you're having another meeting with the developer, you need any of us to let us know. Come along to that, as well.
Yeah. Okay, so what we may do is actually, because he's in the UK, we'll may include you in the email.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Sorry, just one more question. Sorry, Lee. So tomorrow night, you said you've got a meeting with the Greytown Community Board.
Yeah, so the Greytown Community Board had their meeting as per normal at the Greytown Town Hall. And there is a paper that's been put up from the council recommending a road name. The meeting starts at 7 o'clock. There's 2 presentations from Richard Kershaw and myself, and there'll be other presentations about it. But the paper technically won't be discussed till I think about maybe an hour or 30 minutes into the meeting. And the recommendations at the moment is for the developers' names, which are all parking names that do not relate to them. And I'm not poo-pooing that at this point in time because that is relevant, but it's just how the community board are going to address those recommendations at the end of the day.
So that's something that council can do, eh? That's something that's within.
It's now with the community boards. It's actually now with the community boards to do it. But Lee, so it's, can you just clarify that? So is it going to be, so the name that you had originally put forward that the Greytown Community Board was supporting?
It can't be a name because he's already one of those names in Featherston. Unfortunately, we did check to see the Ko-Fi name. Ko-Fi was already used and it is. That is unfortunate. But I think there are a couple of other options and we'll just have to see how that wears with the community board tomorrow night, how that.
Okay, so but that's why there wasn't, the name was just those 3 names that have been put forward?
Yes, yeah. But we haven't been given an opportunity to put names to the list either because no one told us that we needed to do that. So there's an approved list, but we weren't aware that those names that we put forward could have gone onto that list. So there's a bit of confusion around the whole lot of it.
Yeah.
And
I don't know that it absolutely works that well with the community boards.
No.
That operation.
We've got a good story about name roading.
It's still in the shed.
Somebody even went to the trouble of redesigning the sign, making it look perfect with a different name on it.
Don't give me ideas.
The name of our subdivision was Tawhiti, and someone took exception to it. And I think it was.
Karere.
Yeah,
Karere. Yeah, which is incredible because that's the name of the parsite.
Yeah, that's right.
Road. Somebody had some local knowledge. Wow.
I had a bit of fun with that, but I found the bugger. Took a bit of cutting down, but I got it.
Thank you so much for
Cheers, guys.
thank you for the support and we hope the future abides more calmly with other subdivisions. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
See you, Amy.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, that's.
Sounds good. Do we get to move it?
Are there any corrections needed to function the committee meeting on the 20th of October on pages 1 to 6 of the agenda?
I'll second it.
Do we remove the minutes of the Māori Skin Committee meeting held on 20th of October, are true and correct record?
Seconded.
Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. All those against, please say.
I know I wasn't at the meeting, but I didn't realise, does Kai spell his name Patton or Payton?
Oh, Payton,
Is
P-A-T-O-N.
correctly every time?
P-A-T-T-O-N.
So P-A-T-T-E-N. So right through it, even though, but I'm just making sure I wasn't at the meeting, but probably something.
Payton all the way through.
Yeah.
How do you know what's Payton, P-O-N?
P-A-T-O-N.
How did you know that?
Not a mile.
I mean. Payton.
Yeah, Payton.
We will now
move into item 7.1, the officer's report, pages 7 to 56.
A lot of pages, Ewan.
Give us an overview.
What numbers did you say?
Pages 7 to 56, is it?
Can I ask a question of something that I read on page 37?
Yes, yes.
This is just more, I was a bit gobsmacked, really. It's really hard to see here. I looked at it on my computer to start with. So halfway down on the left, we're talking about respectful of the environment. And it says bulk to minimise demands on the region's water resources. And the performance measure was average drinking water consumption per resident per day. That it should be less than 400 litres per person per day. Can you just, someone explain how that is calculated? And that we've actually gone over that, where it's nearly 500 litres per person per day? How's that calculated?
Yeah, so all the properties have water meters. They're read on an annual and effective biannual basis as well, and the usage is averaged out across the year. It's well known, unfortunately, that consumption in South Wairarapa, drinking water consumption in South Wairarapa is much higher than average, and certainly much higher than the likes of Auckland Council. That said, however, that doesn't necessarily account for leaks within the network. We know that we do have some issues with water leaking from the network as well. There's a programme of work going on to resolve that. So it's a lot of water that's consumed per head of the population.
And that's just based on drinking on potable?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So going to every building?
Yeah.
It's a lot of water trips.
Does that also include horticulture?
Long showers.
Yeah. A lot of flushing.
It's primary residential, yeah.
Is it 400?
Yeah.
So the vineyards that attached to the town supply aren't included in that calculation.
I don't think they are, but I can certainly check. Because that often skewed it, because obviously commercial use would skew that number, but I believe it's residential. Yeah.
I just thought it was a really interesting target.
They were on town supply,
Yeah.
so.
And why would the target be so high?
Yeah, it is. It's high usage and it's a high target, and it's a work in progress. We know that people use a lot of potable water for watering their gardens. So there was the initiative to get money from the French Growth Fund for water tanks.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we were unsuccessful with the application, but it's certainly something we're looking to do in terms of developing a proper water conservation plan. In terms of leaks, we've done quite a lot of work in Greytown. We've fixed, I think it's 26 leaks in the last couple of weeks, and identified 10 more on private property that would then be the owner's responsibility to fix. I'm doing the same for Featherstone and Marlborough at the moment, and should have that done before Christmas.
I wasn't aware that you were unsuccessful with getting the funding for the tanks for each shop. I thought that was a great idea.
We will. Yeah, I mean, that absolute sense. I think it got kind of wrapped up into some of the water reform stuff. I know they're going to be reviewing how we're doing water services. So I think unfortunately it probably got subsumed in that, but we're hoping to
Thank you, Suzanne. I thought it was a great idea too.
So in saying that then, is the council now looking at other ways to encourage domestic users to like subsidise tanks or something like that? I don't know.
Yeah, and also one of the things we're looking to do is initially a trial in Greytown around smart meters. We'll be able to share individual households' usage with them and can understand the profile, how much they're using, and how much they're wasting potentially as well. And with that, we can also then profile usage a bit more effectively, and hopefully we can roll that out across the district in due time.
And I was thinking it just now of another suggestion, maybe that is it possible that the council might be able to access bulk purchase of residential tanks?
Yeah.
if you want me to answer that, Suzanne. Yes, I have a proposal in front of me from 2 tank manufacturers that I'll be putting out to the media next week, which does give about a 25% discount on bulk tanks. As well as that, we have a proposal for the district plan that it's compulsory that all new builds have water storage included in their plans.
Yeah, I guess it's not the tank that's so expensive, it's more the plumbing it in or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, just availability of the tanks is part of really constrained at the moment.
Well,
Right, thank you.
It's good movement forward, I like seeing that.
Thank you.
Do you want to take back to page 7 and just give us an overview? of it?
Oh, sorry.
No,
Just so we- just
I
so we-
apologise, it's really
Clearly
important
jumping
us
out
in there.
that we need to be aware of.
This is a pretty big report. I won't pretend to know about the planning space, but if there are any questions there, I'm more than happy to take it back and answer for you. Suffice to say, there's an awful lot going on at the moment between the LTP and just the general work packages that are around. That includes in the water space. We've touched on a couple of areas there already. It's just tons going on. In terms of the Eco Reef file, I'm sure many of you remember the presentation you had around that. So that gained its consent at 2 of the sites. Wasn't just part of this report or not. I've not off the top around it. We're going to be kicking off new year once we've got a bit more of a plan around it. And a request that would engage the committee and what's happening with that and what the plan is around that. So once we know more about the plan, we'll share that with you as well.
Has anyone got any other questions?
Hang on, I've just marked.
That's like bedtime reading, isn't it?
Are we, is page 55 included as well? And what we're just talking about?
Yep.
So I just had a question around the Lake Ferry wastewater treatment plant drip lines. There's been damage to the lines, damages beyond the original upgrade scope. So obviously there was going to be an upgrade.
There was going to be a study done into the effectiveness of the treatment and effectiveness of the drip lines.
And are the drip lines the ones that are underground in the section above the pub at the top? Okay.
There was a budget to do those drip lines prior to the logging event that actually sped things up, so.
So the trucks have driven over that.
The trucks went over and the log went through it.
There's also a channel dug through the middle of the drip lines as well.
So I could suggest, since it's been damaged, that we just do an alternative and then the museum can go up there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Very close to the toilet.
Actually, Suzanne, that's a really good point to bring up. When we are looking at the replacement of the drip lines, which is very, very expensive, getting close to $1 million, to make sure that it's not in a place where you might want to use that land for a future purpose. So I would certainly make you aware of what your forward plans might be in the future to see if we can adapt it.
That's that spatial planning thing?
Our spatial plan, and we talked about the possibility of using that land up here because it's reserved.
But we've got an activity going on that's immediate that you might want to just jump past that process to let them know.
Right.
Please.
Now?
I mean, keep the wastewater somewhere.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure where else we would do it necessarily, but
So at the consultation hui at Kohunui Marae in relation to the long-term plan and the spatial plan, we talked about our visions, really, our dreams, actually, rather than the nitty-gritty stuff. And one of our dreams was to be able to set up a museum in South Wairarapa down at Lake, around our ways, where the waka could go, the Hutanga Waka, which is currently at Te Papa underground in storage. And where we would had visions of Teresa had brought up about an archaeological school, all those sorts of things, you know, and it could, all sorts of things could be incorporated into that. And this was one of our dreams. And the question was asked, where would you put that museum? And I said, well, we think, well, I thought a great space would be up there. It's part of Raniera's reserve, Raniera Te Iho Te Rangi, my tipuna's brother. And at the time, I was a bit concerned about the fact that maybe a building mightn't be able to go onto that land because I knew that the wastewater treatment was under the ground there, but I didn't know to what extent the drip lines went. And I was hoping that that wouldn't restrict our dreams because someone had decided to put the wastewater up there.
There's a lot more land up there than it's being used.
There's 12 beds, there's 12 beds of.
Yeah, but I mean,
so that was
worth thinking about.
Yeah, and when I as soon as I saw Lake Ferry wastewater, I just
you
know, I thought I must bring it up because it's a beautiful place, a beautiful space, and wouldn't be threatened by the water up there. The rising tide.
Sea level rise.
You know, yeah. So was that enough for now, Alex?
That's awesome advice, isn't it? Love the, you're on mute.
Yeah, that's great. That's great, Suzanne. I think Ewan's got an idea and may have to call you or just scope it out with a new eye.
Right. Yep, I saw your thumb anyway.
Hey, so do I have a mover to receive the report? This report.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And seconded, and all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, please say aye. The motion is carried. Do you have questions or clarification you would like to ask at this time? Action items report 7.2, pages 57 to 61. What have we got? What's open? What's open? There, top of page. All fun.
Yeah. Getting down there.
Obviously, it's an old action if it's top of the page. Yeah, and that's, yeah, it's that update around, and it's still going to be part of that pedestrian cycleways, trails plan and potentially around some of the Lake Wire Rapid investment potential as well. We might want to plug that into that too. In fact, I caught up with Toby from GW a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, pretty big plans. I think we've got a meeting coming up.
Yeah. Very excited about Toby.
Yeah, no, there's big plans, especially around there with the investment that Lake Wire Rapid is. I can't remember where it's coming from, but yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
Make sure it's plugged into that, those discussions as well.
So just wants to unpack. So 252. Packed until, oh yeah, right, so it's, yeah, 253, but it's packed until reference, terms of reference. Terms of reference, still coming. 254. Oh yeah, we still want to just keep that one on the list. Do something with it maybe in the new year. 550. Continue discussions with Water Limited. Oh yeah. Community water storage. So it's been added into the agenda.
Yes.
The newsletter. So that one there. So the Moiko project. Those guys are quite open and keen to have a discussion with South Wairarapa community, Māori, non-Māori. So they said they'll bring down the operations team. They will open themselves up to questions. And give us back as much information as they can possibly get, which should be everything we ask. So the question was, do we want to host a meeting as the Māori Standing Committee, host the meeting, bring in our community and have a discussion with these guys? But, you know, mostly it's the impact of the dam in Marston and what does it do to us down here? Because we know that there's going to be effects to us environmentally, the ecology of the way. So this is our chance to have that open discussion with them. They've approached me about 3 times now, and I just go, hang on, you know, like while we're trying to still gather information. And
I'm absolutely all for that. I wouldn't be able to guarantee that there might not be any protests.
Yeah, grief.
But
if they're open for that, then that's.
They totally are too. Yeah. They'll bring the operations team, the engineers, their media guys, because it's, you know, those newsletters,
they're awesome, they're just like propaganda.
Yeah, that's-
You know, they're that good,
Yeah.
but, you know, there's a lot of stuff that, you know, but there has to be stuff, it can't be that smooth.
There was a meeting, I'd forwarded something to some of you guys from Peter Fraser, some notes. He's the a Māori economist. He had recently, we couldn't attend it because we actually had our trustee meet at the same time, but he actually met with a group of people in relation to exactly this, and their thoughts at the time were that maybe because we'd had a hui about this at Papawai, and there's about 30 people attended, and I've been pestering those other people who are involved in it to say, when might we have the next one? Anyway, there was a few of them that had this meeting a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about maybe the best way to get people to sit up and take notice is a public protest.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so, but I think it's a great idea.
But yeah, let's just have that open conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jump up and down.
Some people will need to jump up and down. And I think too, because a lot of people are saying, well, yeah, everyone says, some people are saying we shouldn't have a dam, but why shouldn't we have a dam? We need water, you know, and so out of a lack of understanding and options, other options available, they sort of will just go along with it. And sometimes making a noise is the way to wake them up.
Alex?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things here. You're right, Suzanne. First of all, I do think that it is a reservoir, not a dam. It actually isn't within the river flow, but it has an impact on the lake and the rivers, and we need to quantify that. At the moment, I see very little economic impact or benefit for the South Wairarapa. So we're constantly having that conversation where they're wanting to put money in, and I'm going, I don't think the council can if there's no benefit to the ratepayers. But certainly I think what you've got to do is quantify what the effects on your environment in the South Wairarapa will be as a result of them withdrawing water from the supply. And once we can do that, then we can have a pretty good discussion with them as to what the impacts and how they're going to mitigate that.
Yeah, so I think if there's a date set, then we can.
So this is what I wanted to ask. Do we want to do this? Do we want to do it in the new year? And then what would be some roundabout dates?
Sorry, I do apologise. What's their movement looking at? Because that will tell us how quickly we need to move.
Oh, no.
And the reality is like.
Well, when they came to see us, a meeting ago.
They were very flexible. Yeah.
They're very keen to talk to us, very keen to.
But their consultation was going to finish in January, wasn't it, or February? I thought it was
quite a long way off.
I think it's a long way off.
Yeah, their consultation is complete when they've consulted with you guys and us. And if we push it out, we push it out. So, I mean, there's still a lot of time to go on this whole process. The funding's not secure. They have the money to do the investigation and the consultation from the PGF, which is a loan. It's not a grant. They would like it to be all nicely boxed up. But don't forget, we actually haven't completed the Wairarapa water resilience strategy yet, which might point to the need for a dam. But a dam takes so long to consent that they're doing it parallel.
Yeah, I just feel like, us in South Wairarapa, we just need to be more informed. Like, we need to get them to come to us. And have
I for you, definitely.
Just masking and happening around us.
But it's not just them that need to come to us. It's not them because they're promoting it. We actually need everyone else who has alternative. So rather than just have a Wellington water.
Wairarapa water. Yeah.
What's the Wairarapa water hui? Maybe it be the word I'm thinking of starts with a C, like something where where you get a number of people, like it could be set up as a debate.
Yeah. Well, what I think,
what
it might, but I mean, I think it's difficult for the Māori Standing Committee. What would be perfect if you had the time is to sit on the Wairarapa water resilience strategy, which will tell us whether there is a need in the North Wairarapa for a reservoir. So you could invite a representative of that board to come and talk to you, or I could start bringing all the notes and I could forward the notes through to you for looking at and considering. But I think possibly being invited en masse, just for one meeting to talk about the effect on the South Wairarapa may be useful. And that's the big picture.
Two narratives here. You've got the science narrative and you've got the Te Ao Māori. And it's like, how do we make sure that this is protected and upheld whilst, the science is telling us we are running out of water and these farms need it. But what I did like about their Q&A was they talked about the farms. It's not about the farms getting what they want. They have to change their practices. Yeah. 45 Masterton, but they have to change their practices to be more in line with environmental issues, planting, riparian planting, fencing off, keeping them out of the water and all that sort of thing. Yeah. So I like that because, they're our biggest offender by putting the nutrients into water.
And I think you've got to engage with them and pick out that, which is why it's going to be good to have a meeting with them to say, is this just spin to get your thumbs up for the dam, or is this actually a true reason for Wairarapa water to exist and be considering this?
Yeah, well, that's
because I haven't had an answer to that myself yet.
Yeah, and that's what I mean, because it's somewhere along the line, they know we're running out of water. Their answer is to get that, but when there's not the water in the dam, where are they tapping it out from? Which means it's coming from a natural water source somewhere else.
That is.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to pump it up 300 metres.
It's not effective.
The idea is to take it out of the river when it's in flood.
I just think it would be great to have a community hui, keynote speakers from a variety of different perspectives.
Or maybe the PTK people as well.
Well, they're already part of it. We've heard them. We've heard the water resilience speak here.
Rangatahi.
We do need to have it. It shouldn't be just in here, should it? It needs to be out. Promoted amongst the public.
But I'm just saying the Māori Standing Committee could host it. And
maybe the event centre in Carlton or something like that. Have keynote speakers from different perspectives, all addressing the public, including, and everyone available for question and answer after each speech or something like that. I'd be happy to, not to on my own, but to get in touch with some people to organise some keynote speakers from different perspectives.
Well, I've always said I'd like to know who would do the cultural,
well, that's an interesting,
the feasibility study, and who would have that knowledge?
The environmental impact report, that sort of stuff. Yeah. Well, I'll just give you a top tip on that. Actually, it was they've actually approached Caleb. And I thought, gee whiz, I was going, Caleb, my goodness, that's but he said to me, people that generally write environmental impact reports, cultural impact reports, are not usually from the region anyway. Right. And they are brought in specifically because, well, one, he's a scientist, he's an environmental scientist, and also he is, Te Ao Māori, he's at Taha Māori.
He's already done it. So,
and if you think of someone who you would trust to do the report for this area, I would trust him.
Someone else that I think would be good would be Vanessa, because she's been on the Whaitua implementation committee.
Yeah, for sure.
And she, knows it inside and out, the Ruamahanga Whaitua plan. So, getting those people together with Wairarapa water, I think that would be the best way for people to get a fair hearing.
Who's that? Who's on that committee? Alex, who's on the Water Resilience Committee?
The Wairarapa Water Resilience Committee, Yeah, I think it's at iwi level, wasn't
It's iwi level. And so Ras Smith, Marama is on there. Amber has some consulting role there. But the chair is currently Dame Margaret Baisley. And there's a guy, Jeff Henley, who is the sort of the coordinator of that committee. So Jeff Henley will be the person to talk to get them down here.
Well, yeah, they've said that they'll bring whoever we want to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought, for stuff like that, it's, why wouldn't we be there asking questions to the people that are part of that project? But
to everyone who could give us answers to our questions.
Yeah.
So is this thing we would look at in the new year towards the end of January?
Yeah, I think I'll check. I'll let you know when the next meeting is. The actual next meeting is actually tomorrow or possibly the day after. In Masterton. Yeah, the Water Resilience Committee. Yeah, not the Wellington Wairarapa Water meeting. So the next one will probably be late January, early February. So if you request to me, I can take that to the Resilience Committee requesting a hui.
Not just them that we'd want to speak to, we'd want to speak to the engineers that are building to do the feasibility study.
Yeah. And quantify who you'd like to be there, and we can make sure that they arrange to have it.
Okay, well, I'll make them. Does it need to be an action, or should I just send you an email and forward you?
Yeah, do an action item to invite, but flick me an email with what you want to see.
Okay.
What we want to see.
Is that right? Yeah, so open to the whole community, all the communities.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be impacts, you can't send that away.
Yeah, there's a reason the river floods. I mean, I know it sounds not much taking some water out, but it is the recharge of the lake, or it's supposed to be, in the rivers. So.
Yes, keeping it at its minimum level all the time means that there's a whole lot of things not happening that should be to help clean it down. Yep.
Okay, moving on, 452. What have we got here? This one's open. It will be consideration. Request Greater Wellington Regional Council forms a memorandum of understanding with council in relation to access to, that's right.
It's the pattern story.
That was the headline.
Name's not wrong.
George Patton.
Apparently it's been action that you sent a letter as well, but again, it's by pattern, so I can just check that. That has been sent.
So why have we still got that open though? Because we're going to keep it open until
it goes in the long-term plan.
Yeah, and there's the cessation of the forestry.
Yeah.
Do we get it on ours? On the own action thing? Because we've done our bit, we did our letter of support, so do we need to have this part still in here for us? Or should it be one that goes to you guys?
Go to assessing services.
Yeah, so this is just another letter, isn't it? This is another letter requesting.
This is going to happen after it goes to long-term care, but we've done our bit as a standing committee, so can we take that one out and swap it over to GP?
Yeah, as it's.
No.
555. Standing committee to provide feedback directly. Oh yeah, how'd that go? So Lisa Matthews.
Yep, I just forwarded one off today. Whoops. I got a very well-written response from Ann Carter. Excellent response, actually. Not excellent for them necessarily. And a couple of others that I've just copied and pasted onto an email and sent it off to Lisa.
Oh, nice one, thanks, Susie. That's cool. And did we do something with Karen?
Well, remember, she didn't come and speak to us.
Oh, that's
No,
right. She got stopped.
Oh, she was supposed to be at the Māori.
She didn't come.
No, she wasn't. She got stood down. Long story.
Yep. She didn't come to the marae. She just sent us the.
That's right. Yeah.
She just sent us the questions, and I just forwarded them out to, emailed them out to whānau.
She was supposed to go to Mokai.
Oh, I see. Sorry.
We were doing our long-term plan, spatial plan night, and we were going to squeeze her in it as well. But yeah, she wasn't allowed to come.
Anyway.
It's a long story. So what if we should close that?
Because I think we've gone as far as we can with it, it was just to give you suggestions.
Just possibly to note, in regard to health, I've just received and forwarded out from the District Health Board a questionnaire and a survey monkey questionnaire for whānau to report back to them as well about Māori health.
That's the
And then there was that question around, what if you wanted to go and see Specsavers? I think you raised that question last time. Well, apparently, Lisa contacted me, she said, yeah, you can do that, you just have to ring the number, and that's the St John's van. But that's not really what we were asking, we were wanting a better service going forward, which I think is more of a long-term plan thing.
Well, and also talking about the fact that 65 years is a kind of a non-Māori,
That was,
line in the scene.
As well, but also, the bringing the bus together, saying it doesn't have to be just hospital visits, they would take you to Specsavers if that's what you needed to do.
Right.
But kind of wanted more than just that, it was more like to increase the services from Aotearoa or South Waitangi to us.
It might change with the Greytown Medical, that new medical centre being set up there with all hospital services and things.
We'll just keep our eye on that one. Close that off. And just another thing I wanted to, I think everyone got this email though, Karen, Nathan, and Tony. And so that was from Nicola Litchfield. And so she just wanted to give us a brief update on progress on the Palace Bay earthquake study.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw Voss had responded to that, is that right?
Yes, he was asking what the terraces were.
Oh, that's right. So I think she's just, Earthquake Commission would like to do some media comms. Oh, that's right. Some media comms about this project. So I'm also checking with you that you'd be okay with some filming in Milwaukee. Does anybody have any objections to that?
No, she was going to make sure it was after, not at the very early stages, and actually identified what might be in the filming before it happened.
Yeah, I'm sure she'd be really good at doing about what she does.
She has just got in touch with Heritage New Zealand to get permission to do it. I mean, she had to start here and then go through them.
Christine,
and Christine's been out for a while.
No, I can do this, it's okay. Yeah, so that was just that update on email. Did everybody get to see it though and read it?
Yeah, I got it.
And you're happy, like she just say that they were still happy to come in to call the but she can contact you to read it. Yeah, okay, just wanted to make sure that everybody see that. Right?
I haven't responded to her.
So, do I have a mover to receive the actions items report?
I'll move it.
And a seconder?
Yep.
Thank you. And do I have, all those in favour, please say aye. All those against, please say no. The motion is carried. Income and expenditure, 7.3, pages 62 to 66.
Not much happened.
I found this really hard to actually understand.
Oh my gosh, I always find this.
I wasn't sure what was blue, why some were blue and why some weren't, and oh, it's only the one figure at the end that's blue. Oh, it's two.
All right, and I did ask to have our one added into this, which is the one where evidence in our full PO and then the budget is set against that, because I want everyone to see that there's funding there and to start thinking about how we're going to spend that funding.
I saw Hawariki for furniture and I thought, oh yes, tables and chairs for courtroom that are all the same. And not broke at Inui College or, you know.
Yeah.
Well, the good news is we've got money.
Oh, yes.
So can someone talk to us?
Gosh. So our operating costs for a year to run the Māori Standing Committee comes to 43,000.
Yep.
And that is just from council budget. And so far, gosh, that.
But that 20 was the one, that was the rolled over one, wasn't it? That's
Operating
not.
expenses, yes, that's every year.
Yeah.
That's every year. The 20.
That's what I'm getting confused. What was the one that which wasn't included then?
So what was that? It was 43,000.
Every year.
The Māori development.
Right.
Yeah, sorry. So on page 65, yes.
So what was budgeted of 43,000, only 5,000 was spent, is that right?
No, so that's.
Budget, less personnel expenses, less committed funds.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, so $27,000 was left over. Okay.
It's not how I'd write it up, because I can't really understand this one.
Okay, balance carried forward from 2019.
Maybe it might be worth, at our next meeting, ask Charlie to come along and explain it.
Charlie,
Yeah.
Katrina.
Well, with Charlie.
Charlie or Katrina.
Katrina, yeah.
Okay.
So where's the money available?
Well, yeah, but it's all been allocated.
Operating budget available, $44,079.55.
And total Marae funds available is 9,800.
That's Papua.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, okay, that'd be good. Yeah. Yes. Let me have a meeting with Charlie and Katrina and just do this in a better way for us to understand, because even I can't work out.
I think the fact it's gone over 2 different periods makes it a bit more confusing as well.
In the language, it's different wording, like what I'd call it. Anyway, right. Okay, so the action is that I'll talk to accounts and get it maybe redone into a format that
Thank you.
for us. Do I have a move to receive the income and expenditure statement for the period of 1st of July 2019? And can I have a seconder, please? All those in favour, please say aye. All those against, please say aye. Motion is carried. Longwood Water Race Consent Renewal Report, 7.4, page 67.
Just for information only. So.
This goes all the way through to page 90. Is it the same?
Yeah.
71?
No.
Oh, it's not. It's a different thing.
31.
71.
Right.
Well, who wants to talk to this? Is this you?
Yeah.
So this is just for us to.
It's an update.
It's an information only.
Yeah. It's just what
It's a process that's going on. I've been around to ask for a bit more information and further engagement with DOC and Fish and Game, and that's been a process that's gone through. So we're actually just waiting now on Greater Wellington to make a decision. As it mentions in the report, we are looking at a 5-year term for this, so that brings it in line with the Moroa water race, and that gives us a bit of a window to develop a strategy for water races across the district. And to understand the purpose, the use, alternatives, all that sort of stuff.
To understand it when it's been going for a long time.
Yeah, but then the use of the land potentially has changed since it was first put in place.
Look, we're going with a survey across both water races, and if both water races are on the same time limit, then you can survey Moroa and Longwood and ask people whether they want to actually divert, close, mediate, store, whatever.
Is it storm?
Because
No.
sorry,
Is it storm?
no, it's tyranny.
Apart from Greytown, Greytown stormwater runs through it, but what's happened over the 100 odd years, the water races have got their own ecosystem, like the one at Marsden. No one wants it closed because it's got an ecosystem and it's been for a century. See, I mean.
Catch the biggest eels in them.
Big bun.
Catch the biggest
And
eels.
the water races.
Well, the same with Moroa. But because they're a separate timeline, there was a move some time ago to actually have a single water race
That's right.
act, which we don't have independently at the moment.
There's also emerging policy and legislation from the central government around freshwater and
Yeah.
stock exclusion and all that sort of stuff. How does that impact how water races are used? So we need to take that into account as well as we develop it.
Oh, I see. Well, see, that's taking water out of the river as well, isn't it?
It does, and then returns it, and unfortunately probably not a great state because of stock lingering in there, various things entering water and then rejoining the river further down. So there's ecological benefits, ecological impacts, and this is going to be part of the problem. And we're not alone in wrestling with this. There's good sides and bad sides to it.
Yeah.
The water races were sort of intended for farmers to be able to feed their stock.
It's stock water.
Yep.
They're originally intended because it was very difficult to do deep bores in the old days. But the technology has arrived now where most farmers do have bores. So it's an old way of irrigation.
Right.
The Romans did it in their time.
But did they still have
They did it more
the,
efficiently though.
Yeah, they did it far more efficiently. They had it all.
but do the water races feed into their troughs?
No.
They don't, so.
No, they're open.
They just pump water open.
They're not allowed to have any pipes into the water races.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah, but stock and fowl.
But there's not many now that have it stocked.
No, the terms of the water race are that stock cannot stand in the water.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky one. I think.
Oh, so
So they can move through it.
hang on, that part of the pukara ki te kawakawa is to have a trough in every paddock.
Yeah.
Instead of
Pumped up to what, like, where's that source of water located?
The guy Beetham, Jamie,
William Beetham.
Does he pump it up?
They dam it, they have a dam where they can pump it up. It pumps up naturally in a dam uphill and then they can feed it back in the dry time into a trough.
Well, it's a bit of thinking, but yeah, like, it's these ways to do things.
There's some farmers out there.
As time evolves, it'll be a lot of fancy things out there.
Almost sounds better than having a dam.
Well, what about the, out here at, Kowal?
That's more, yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay, do I have a mover to receive the report?
Yep.
Yeah, do I have a seconder? Karen Nathan. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, please say no. Motion is carried. This wastewater treatment. Page 72.
I just.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not a big report.
More rubbish.
Committee will be aware that we're in the process of trying to resolve how we dispose of Phillipson's wastewater. And it's a bit of an update on the consent process to date and the process that's been followed. I know initially there was a little bit of confusion around who to invite from Greater Wellington's resource consent process. In terms of locally, if you were invited, there was a bit of confusion as to who was coming and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, so it was more around that sort of stuff. But I guess the reason for bringing this obviously to the committee's attention is to engage in the process and then provide a bit more information around it and actually to seek your thoughts and input to the process. There are various public workshops being held and will be held, but we're really keen to make sure that your views are captured in that process. I'm not necessarily looking for something right now, because you said that there's quite a lot there to read and digest and think about. But we're very keen to make sure that your views are captured as part of the process. The documents that are there are, Gary and others can chip in as well, but basically outline how we look to dispose of the effluents of the treated wastewater. And there was obviously some pretty big issues there around some of the receiving environments that are being listed there. but these are really the first level ideas around what is possible. Some of it's probably not very feasible. And we just really keen to get your thoughts and input to what's there.
So is the reuse and redistribute the one that's not feasible?
No, it's feasible.
So the high treatment, wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah, it would require a significant amount of treatment. It's not necessarily not feasible, it would just be extremely expensive.
And the reuse, I don't think people are going to buy into it.
So I guess there's a couple of things there around reuse, and there's a couple of different levels. Would it be reused for drinking water? Well, the option would actually be to send it up to a treatment plant to get further treated there. Or would it be used as grey water, i.e. irrigation on farmland? Or would it be used as grey water use in houses or whatever? So there's lots of different things around reuse. So I just think it's going to be drinking water.
But even though it might be a hard thing to sell, isn't it? Because people will assume, what are you going to make it drink?
Yeah.
Drink it.
I like the
And
idea.
then Rouse does say, you
Reuse.
drink it first.
Yeah, but it's not going to be for drinking water.
No, it's not. They never said it was.
I like the idea of outside of the water treatment that it goes through constructed wetlands, man-made constructed wetlands. Start stripping out the nitrogen and phosphate.
Yeah, I know that there's a lot of confusion around that all. I mean, they tried that up north, each phase, and it didn't work. It was, we all went up there and had a look at it. It was going to be the new way of treating wastewater, but they've withdrawn that now completely.
I mean, I wouldn't like to think that would happen because, and we know that, you know, Wairarapa Moana has been now acknowledged by Ramsar as a significant international wetlands, and then to say, oh, we're going to run our shit through it now.
No, but it's treated first, then still good.
Sorry, but you know, it's still.
But that's what's happening right now.
The confusion though is
Except it's not being treated.
That's right.
So at the moment, it's running through the street without any treatment.
It's up in the Moana, so my options would be to land or to reuse and redistribute.
What's culturally acceptable? That's the question really coming to the Maori Standing Committee. What is a culturally acceptable way to dispose of it? Is beneficial reuse culturally acceptable, i.e. to put it into growing crops or grass or
not for edible foods?
No, not people. No. Underground.
You wouldn't put it where you are growing foods.
Unless at what level? At what level of purity?
Yeah, because it can be treated to. What's the two words?
Potable.
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 Non-potable. It's potable the top one.
Potable drink.
Yeah, and that's going to be really expensive and hard to achieve that. So non-potable.
I mean,
that's pretty clean.
And so that's why we're looking at almost looking at the receiving environment first, and then understanding what's the best solution there, and then working back from there to understand what the level of treatment is there for the best process and cost.
Well, the thing with the Moana is the high nutrients that are entering it, and the sediment that gets into it. That's its biggest combat. Because the thing is, if you start stripping out some of the sediment, like they talked about scraping that out, the other issue is the weed that will grow, and that weed will overwhelm that lake. But yeah, there's a whole lot of balance stuff, isn't there?
You might need all the water you can get to feed into the lake if the reservoir goes ahead further up the line. It's not all that water going through.
It still needs to flush.
So do you access other councils' options, what they're doing and what's successful and what's not?
Yeah, that one there that, what's that? My husband's going to tell me what that says, Dave. What's that?
That's you, sorry. Oh, drip lines.
Oh.
So there's a couple of different, there's a couple of different solutions. There's some reasonably shallow ones, which is down at Lake Ferry, or you can actually do them much deeper.
Is that what they did out the coast there? And they failed out there though. They flooded instead, and then it was supposed to fill up into a swale and then slowly dissipate into the funnel, but it didn't. It just overflowed and went into the next channel because it was like lines of it was.
Where was that?
One of the coast. Is it?
Riversdale.
No, I think Pass Riversdale. Anyway, just wondered if that's what that
Yeah.
I guess, my question is, okay, Carterton's doing theirs and it's got like 6 million and they're already like, is what it is gonna cost, and they've got the same amount of people as we do in the whole of South Wairarapa, and they can do it at that cost. We need to do 3 of them. And we need to be really realistic as well on what we can get, because we've got a really small amount of people and ratepayers that can actually pay for it.
So one of the ideas was actually whether, and I believe it was part of a study back in 2012, whether there should be a single wastewater treatment plant for the whole district, and it wasn't cost effective at the time. One of the other ideas that was considered was actually, should we be pumping the effluent treated wastewater to another place to dispose of it? The problem we have with Featherstone is that the siting where the current wastewater treatment plant isn't ideal for disposing of wastewater. If we're a time again, we do it somewhere else.
The water level's too high. Water table.
Yeah, that's one of the problems in the soils.
And it's going to get higher, isn't it?
So why did this wetlands in the area?
I don't know why it didn't fail, but look, you know,
Was it-
2012, it was going to be the silver bullet. And I think it just got blocked up. You know anything about the old wetlands style deal?
It's one of those that, as you can see, is still being mooted as an option. The problem is, of course, frankly, as soon as
Well, we
it's
still
not an
haven't seen-
industrial process.
There's nothing innovative come out at all.
But-
We asked for new ideas and all we've got is the same,
And the same ideas.
same all over again. Nothing's moved.
And like I say, you know, like if people are wanting it so that way it will be drinkable, well,
Yeah.
then guess what? That's gonna cost tens and tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah, you can't even get it.
And so, you know, I mean, it's,
Well, they've quoted 37 million so far, so, you know, that was the last quote from Wellington Water, 37 million.
So we need to be
Featherstone.
I'm going to be quite clear on this. We're still looking at receiving environments, and receiving environments are what they are. We haven't moved the plant anywhere, it's still where it is. There are some good things around deep water bore recharging that are potentially around. So there's a bit of innovation options there, but also things have moved on quite a lot in terms of some of the treatment that can be done at the front end. Once we understand where potentially we can get rid of the effluent, we can look at the cool stuff underground treatment. So there's still some room for innovation as well.
so that's where they're kind of saying, well, you could have one plant for the 3.
That's
That
one of the
obviously,
options.
obviously, and it's still greater.
It's an option, isn't it? It's an idea.
Well, look, if you're talking about millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, how much for those pipes? You know, like maybe it's another option.
Which is the most expensive option?
Yeah, because
They haven't priced any of them.
Oh,
I just, look,
I've
it
got no
really worries
idea.
me because of everything that's kind of, even the half of these questions that they're asking, you just know, you can look at it and you go, that will cost so much money.
Yeah, absolutely. So we need to be quite clear. This is ideas. This is still the first stage of the process. That's why we're still quite keen. So if as a group or individuals you feel that a particular solution is not viable, is not culturally acceptable, as Gareth says, then we need to know that. You need to provide that input. And that's why we're flagging it with you.
Then you can cross them off the list and say this.
Absolutely. It's a no-go. Let's just move on. Let's find something else.
Because there's some things in there, they're saying composting toilets. Well, that's not going to happen.
No.
And discharging, you know, to the sea, that's not going to happen. Just cross them off and say it's not going to happen.
yeah, we don't want that.
You know,
I think.
Yeah, but as you know, Garrick, we need to make sure that we've explored all options so that if we are audited, we can say we have looked at everything and discounted them.
agreed.
So yeah, please don't keep going on like that, Garrick.
No, I'm just saying that the options here include discharging to the Ruamahanga River. Now, is that culturally acceptable to anybody?
No, but we know that, but we've got to make sure that it's an option that is presented and then discarded because we're starting from scratch on this consent.
Do you want the Māori Standing Committee to submit something, or do you think it should be individuals from the committee that join us?
No,
Or,
I think we can come to a consensus.
I'm suggesting very hard because
Yeah, just be involved in the process. I don't think we're at the point where we need the Māori Standing Committee to put the foot down. Or,
I mean, read that, just to make sure that, what do I need, how do we need to say that?
Well, there's
Option
nothing
one out,
back
option
here.
two out.
Well, Alex is right. If we want to go along and say we've considered all possibilities, and there are a number of possibilities here which I don't think are culturally acceptable.
Well, anything that discharges to water, I mean, that's.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the question. I'm supporting the animals.
If it's treated to, I guess if it's gone through
Yes,
the natural process.
exactly, and that's the sort of.
Multiple.
Yeah.
Then,
Yeah.
way, but it's probably not cost too much.
Yeah, I think what would be really useful for the process is for the Māori Standing Committee perhaps to do a workshop and work out what you want the end result to be for the environment and your land. So then you can feed back to saying this is what we want to see, and then the system then factors those outcomes into the process.
Well,
yep.
Yeah, it's like identifying our values.
Yes.
But wouldn't that just be, I mean, really, isn't our main concern our moa?
Yeah.
But I also,
So it's like that's, you know, like.
but I also think that, you know, and we were looking at the thing about water and water usage and being more conservative with water usage, that being able to reuse some of this water will reduce water usage.
Yeah.
So from a environmental impact, and I don't know what the right words are, that would be a good thing to do.
Yeah, so imagine if we could do some of that, if we could have a reasonable treatment plant that took it to non-potable, if we could get it through some wetlands, if we could do all of that, but all of that costs.
And that we never have any raw sewage going into the moana.
Oh, yes.
Oh, God.
That's right, that's a non-negotiable.
But that, see, like in Levin, they had, they have a great sewage treatment process, but at times you still end up getting raw sewage going into Lake Porofenua. And that's not, that shouldn't, the system that's designed should ensure that that won't happen.
Yeah.
Well, you've got your barriers here.
But that's the next move, sit down and say what, for me, what is acceptable to the standing committee, what processes. I mean, I'm not mad keen on deep water, just recharging, but it could actually be effectively recharging some of the groundwater.
Yeah, but I think what you want to do is not predicate the type of system, it's what you want to see.
Yeah.
Where you want to see the water going and what quality that's at.
Yep.
And that would be helpful for the process.
So that requires us getting together and having a workshop.
Yep, I would suggest that might be a good chit chat and go out and go, yep, this is what we want to see. Take your point, Suzanne. We don't want to see outflow ever, which means it's an expensive system if you're coping with a 1 in 500 flood event. But we've got to, if that's your non-negotiable, we need to know that.
Ewan, when do we need feedback from this committee? Because there is a bit of a timeline here.
There is, I don't have it with me unfortunately, but unless it's in the.
Community feedback February.
Yeah, so there has been a public, was it public consultation session quite a few weeks ago, which was around some of this. So do need to make sure that your voice is heard through that process. And if it's February, absolutely, but I guess what I'm saying is that it's really important that you make your voice heard as strongly and as soon as you can. So
we need time to workshop that and what are our values, what's our non-negotiables.
Yep.
And you can do that in multiple ways. You can roll onto the public forum as well, or we can organise a separate discussion for you if that's.
It's not just us.
Oh, no.
Right, you know, almost like a survey that goes out and gets people to yes, no.
Yeah, well,
It's quite
I think you need.
It's
I know.
complex. I think people need to.
Yeah, I think you need to get them here, and they all hear the same word because it gets confusing out there if it goes from.
Yeah.
So at least you'll find what those bottom lines are for people by doing that.
Yeah, will you? Yeah.
Maybe.
But you find the bottom lines, you get them around the table and talk about it.
But when would we schedule this thing? When would we look at doing our workshop specifically for?
Well, it's end of February. We've got to do it by.
Community feedback must be in by February 2021.
And there's still ongoing processes after that. So
Yeah.
no.
And you've got the Wakamoiko one in January.
Yep, that one, we're gonna try and line that up for mid-January. Was it, did I say mid-January? What did I say?
Late January, early February.
Oh, late January. Yeah, late January at the moment, but Alex, you're gonna talk to the resilience people first, see what their timeline is.
Yep.
And I can easily contact Walt and say sometime towards the end of
Yep.
January. Yeah, okay.
So,
And with that, Madam Chair, could I be excused from the meeting?
No,
Yeah,
My drugs are wearing off. I'm fading fast.
Yeah, take care, Alex.
Kia ora, guys.
Marty,
hey,
so we're looking,
we've got an LTT workshop
end
on
of
the
January,
27th.
end of January.
I was just thinking, I still think a survey is something to go out to catch a lot of people's response, because a lot of people don't want to go to a meeting. Like, would you be happy with, yes or no? Would you be happy with this? Would you be happy with that? Yes or no? And then if you get all the yeses together, you know,
How long do you think that would take to get out and get some replies soon?
those survey monkeys.
I'm not doing it.
I'm gonna do Thursday, the 21st of January as a workshop.
Sorry, what was it?
Well, you need a workshop, yeah. When did you say the workshop?
Well, these timelines.
Yeah, so what about the 21st, Thursday, the 21st of,
Only problem, of course, is if you get the answer where you've got to spend millions and millions and millions of dollars because of that, then what do you do?
Yeah, that's right. That's all right for me. How's that?
What date was that?
Thursday, the 21st of January,
21st.
the 21st,
A workshop.
depending on call. Yeah, actually have a workshop and do it for.
And even though this is around the Featherston wastewater treatment plant, it is something for all of the
Actually, for the
towns.
central
the whole-
I think,
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
It's the whole lake.
yeah.
Workshop.
We'll pencil it in and see if we can get it.
Are we talking about a day or an evening? What do we
It
do?
has to be an evening.
Yeah, is it, is a 6:30, because you gotta come, some of people are coming off train.
Yeah.
6:30?
And can we have it in Featherston?
Oh, yeah, be good.
Why not have it out at Darwin?
Oh,
Well, are you providing credit? It'll be close
Could
to
be
Wellington
done.
anniversary.
Could be done, but you supply the permit, I'll get the progress.
And for that, would you be looking for people from Rental Water to come along and talk you through things and listen to you, or is it more?
That's it for the workshop.
That Linda Fairbrother lives in Featherston.
She does, and in fact, the boss lives in Maori.
Oh, right, okay. And she really blew it on this one.
She's project manager, so it's up to you whether you see it as something for the committee, or you want someone from Rental Water to
But maybe,
explain and
you know,
discuss.
It's the only concern is like them coming in and overwhelming the meeting, because it's in the community having a discussion, and they need to hear what community are thinking, because, you know, the last one at the RSA was, you know, their setup, and we just had to tick boxes right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just what I do.
This is flip it, it would be that we have that discussion, we lead the discussion, we go to them for clarity.
Yep.
And, yes, yeah, they can come along, but it's.
Oh, no, it's just an idea, if you'd rather have discussions, that's absolutely fine.
We can do it, can we do it? Yeah, I think we should.
Is it-
Oh, I should probably ask them.
Yeah, quite a lot.
oh, my God, good.
Is it all right, if we send out a meeting or workshop request for us to? That way it goes in my calendar and I'm locked.
Yep.
So 21st, 6:30.
Yep, January, yeah.
Steph, will you send out a what?
Steve, nice one. Okay, so is it all good with that? We're gonna have a workshop around that. We're
Can
gonna
you put
decide
the
our
hall for us?
non-negotiables.
Or do we want to have it out at Light and Walkai?
Oh, we,
Because when people jump off the train,
oh, yeah,
So this is for the Māori Standing Committee to have their workshop with regards to how we want this sitting.
the public meeting.
So it's going to be public, so it's not a workshop.
Well,
I thought this
No,
was a workshop for working through what we were doing.
We want cultural comment. We really want the cultural comment. It's open to the whole public.
yeah. I think maybe Māori Standing Committee and Marae.
Yeah.
Yeah, and.
I don't know how you say that
because
nice.
This is,
How do you say it?
yeah, everyone can have their view, but only Māori can have Māori, Māori things. So, yeah, we need to have that discussion and work out our non-negotiables and work out our values and how we want the end to look
Exactly.
for the future.
Māori consultation.
Okay, all right.
And your views won't differ a lot with other people who've got a voice on this.
No, so where is it going to be then?
Well, we won't need to tell you all.
No.
Well, why wouldn't there be enough people? But for the Marae coming, but Marae community. Well, it's the Māori Standing Committee. So then there's obviously the extensions of everybody from each Marae.
Or either have it at the whare or the smaller hall.
That is the kiwi. The insects.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
New toilets.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they've got new toilets.
And where's that go to?
Yeah.
Yes. There's a bucket underneath and a survey monkey taking it out.
So is it going to be at the NZ Hall?
Kiwi.
Yeah, but it's the same building, yeah, same building. Oh,
Yeah, it's that one. Okay. Do I have a move to receive the report? And a second. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, please say aye. The motion is carried.
Great report, by the way. I like picture, colour.
yeah.
We're up to now, so second consensus, Considine Park user group combination report. Do we have a move to receive the report? It's on page 91 to 96. Thanks, but a seconded. Karen, Kilda, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, please say poll. And the motion is carried.
So it's about nominating a person.
Yeah, so this is, so at the last Marlborough Community Board meeting, they had a look at the Considine Park Youth Group for the training. So they normally only meet about once a year. And they, when they just had the list of who was there, they felt that it was important to have someone on the user group to represent the interests of tangata whenua. And so they said that, you know, could the Māori Standing Committee, what they'd like is just for the Māori Standing Committee to consider nominating a person. It does not have to be someone from the Māori Standing Committee because we know how much work everyone is already involved in. But if it was, that would also be awesome, but it's not a necessity. Just if you can think of anyone. So that's how come in the wording, they made sure to put someone that's been nominated by the Māori Standing Committee. So even if we have a few words put in.
Ngāti Kawera? Anyone that you can think of, Teresa?
From
Yeah, so it's, yeah, because it's just from the,
Why don't we think about it?
community board.
Shoulder.
Well, that's why it's been put in here, basically, it's just so if the Māori Standing Committee would think who might be able to. Are you sitting on there?
Just, you know, in the essence of time, why, can we just still have a bit of a time and talk about it, see if we think of someone, I'll have a bit of a talk around. And then come back to the Māori Standing.
So that's what it actually says is to, if you have anyone and then you can just bring the names back here, that person can be nominated by the Māori Standing Committee and then go on to there. And so there is mileage that will be paid for any meetings that are attended. As well, but they, you know.
Okay.
It'd be good for someone, I think, who's involved and always got
In the
maybe young
community.
children or
In the community and.
in sports. What do they?
Because they look after the Centennial and Considine Park.
Horse riding.
Yeah. It's a big one across the road from the church.
There's a bike track.
Yeah. Pump track.
Okay, let's also
And come back.
sound out a few people and
Yeah.
come back to us.
On the 16th.
Yeah.
Who was playing cricket the other day? Who was that?
So there's, oh,
Kids in there, I was singing one of them.
yeah.
One of the parents.
Nathan,
Yeah, well,
Nathan Fenwick and nephew, both have a lot to do with the cricket, so, and Nathan's already on the Māori Community Board, but.
I was just going to have a yarn to one of the funny boys and to see who they think
They'd like to represent.
that, you know, around there, that have children that use the park or. Right, we'll come back with some names.
And that was James Bruce.
Yeah. Don't stop, just keep going.
Yeah, keep them moving.
We'll now move on to 7.7.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Did I do that? Oh,
Yeah, we received it.
Just in sorry. We'll now move on to 7.7, the 2021 meeting schedule, pages 97 to 105. Do we have a mover to receive the report? I have. And secondary, Karen? All those in favour, please say aye. All those against, please say aye. The motion is carried. Do I have a mover to note the 2021 schedule of ordinary meetings for council and committees, and note that the council has adopted an 8 weekly meeting cycle for council and committee meetings? Do I have someone to move that?
Yep.
And a secondary? Yeah. All those in favour, please say aye.
Yep.
Against, please say aye.
Oh, can I just speak to that? So currently it's 6 weeks, and I remember at the last meeting they talked about changing, that it was going to be changed to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And that was a budgetary.
Oh, I didn't say budgetary, but it's certainly safe. It's more of an operations thing. Because there's just not enough time between 6 weekly meetings to actually get operations done before the next meeting is coming.
You can still have an emergency meeting if we wish.
Right, I see. Okay.
So if something urgent comes up, you can call.
Oh, that's what I remember
But
hearing.
at the same time,
Okay,
saves money.
okay.
Yeah.
Fine. Thank you.
We asked to set our start time for meetings for next year. Is everyone happy to keep it at 6 p.m?
Yep.
Is that all right for everyone?
Yep.
And whakawhanaungatanga have us 5 to 6, and then we'll get into our meeting at 6. And Tuesday, we'll keep ours on Tuesdays. Yep. So do I have a mover to agree that the 2021 Māori Standing Committee meeting start time will be 6 p.m. on Tuesdays? Do I, someone to move that? Got a part-time?
Sure that it doesn't fall on the day that we've got.
Yeah, sure. And secondary? Aye. Okay. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, please say no. Do I have a mover to delegate to the chief executive the ability to alter the schedule of ordinary meetings in consultation with the chair as required? What does that mean?
That means that he will come to you if there's any reason that
You can
they
change.
can't get someone, you know, can we get a secretary, otherwise we not need to move it or.
Oh,
No, yeah, so that's what it means. So he has the, yeah, there's something, four meetings all at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure.
All same date, same hour.
Well, 8 weeks, I mean, it's even hard to understand, see what the impact of that will be. I just feel like our meetings are going to be huge. And they got to be 8 weeks.
This is going to be thicker.
Yeah, we're going to have probably more in front of us.
So is this,
We will.
This is going to happen, isn't it? So
Yes.
meetings could potentially go longer.
Oh. If we're all prepared and we've all read everything.
So do I have a move to that? So can someone move that for me, please?
oh, yeah.
And can I have a seconder, please?
Oh, second, yeah.
What was
All those in
that?
favour, please say aye.
That was just, that was giving Harry authority to tell us what to do.
You should have also given anyone authority to change it. Ah,
What have I said here? Oh, yeah. Tuia Rangatani Mural Mentoring Program.
Yeah.
What I said there? Did you have someone
Yes, I do, and I actually contacted him today. So Isaac Walker, who was a year 13 last year at Kuranui College. He's been, while he was there and also this year, he's been working alongside Alan Maxwell, who's a youth counsellor. I remember when he first started at Kuranui College as a year 9 student, he was asked, because they couldn't find anyone to do the whai kōrero on behalf of the new students, he was asked if he would do the whai kōrero, and he did. He's a very, very humble boy. He's very respectful. He and his younger sister Jade are the two youngest of I don't know how big the family is, but the others have been through, their family life has been quite traumatic at times, and their older siblings have been in and out of lots and lots of trouble, but these two, Isaac and Jade, have just been, stand-up students at school. And I asked him if he would be interested, and he said, I feel very humbled that you've asked me. But I did get back to him today and ask him how he's going. Has he actually applied? Is he still interested? And he said to me, kia ora, no, sorry, I've been tied up with other responsibilities. I had a look, because I'd sent the thing to him, the email. I had a look and I'm definitely keen, but I haven't applied or anything. But I said to him, I would like to recommend him, and I'll need to help him to get it done because it closes this Friday.
Were you happy to help him with his application? And
I'll have to try. I'll try. It needs to be in by Friday. So, has anyone got anyone else that they wanted to recommend?
no, sounds like a very, very
Lovely boy, beautiful boy.
nice opportunity too.
Beautiful.
Okay, so I'll leave that with you. Just give us a shout out if you need help.
I haven't even looked at the application myself, but I just forwarded it to him. And, yeah, I'll have a look at it.
Yeah, well, please, I'll follow if you need.
Thank you.
Awesome.
That's great.
And what so that was around having a meeting with those guys, so we've decided to put that to the end of January. And the other one was advice on property naming. Oh, that's right. So that one, Nathan, that you guys got an email from, that people, and this is down at Moiki, isn't it? 2 ponds on their section, and then advised that one of the ponds on the land has a name and it's known as Manu Kawi. So that, but the idea is to change the name of the whole development, isn't it? That's what we're doing, our support.
The subdivision, yeah.
The whole subdivision.
The whole area.
So,
Yeah. Tony, did you?
yeah, actually, that's interesting.
Where are we at?
Sorry, Tony.
Hi, Tony.
Where are we at? Sorry, can you tell me where we're at?
Okay, so,
Page 107.
can you hear me?
Yep.
Topic 3, page 1.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, so I guess from our perspective, this inbound query, I don't know if it's part of the same kōrero that we heard earlier in terms of the same property development. I'm not sure, but from our perspective, I think that it's always positive that people are looking towards us and have engaged us. I guess the question is, when we were looking at this, and I think we had a kōrero about this, Nerita, we want to do these things well and not be proactive. So the kōrero prior, which is, making sure that, there's been designated significant sites, helping developers, but also I was actually looking on the Tupu website, which is it's Puni Kokiri. So there's a whole raft of information that if we directed people who are interested to self-serve, to do some information themselves, because Whenua Māori, for example, like on Moike Road, that's actually designated on maps and on Puni Kokiri sites. So I think there's an element of when we get inbound requests, we actually need, we almost have an obligation to respond and try and help them as we can. And I don't think we've got a process to do that yet. So I'm looking to this committee to try and see how we best respond to those inbound requests, because that's how we're going to get, that, I guess, engagement from the broader community. These aren't developers as I understand it, these are just residents. But of course, there's a separately with developers who I would suggest have a different, they have a different kaupapa. They're therefore potentially, if I look at Napa or Rapa Valley, it's about marketing, it's about profit. So I think they are different. So I guess I was looking to direction, and I wondered, I don't know, harm me, but is there an opportunity to engage with, you know, to help to work alongside this particular resident and go back to them, because they've obviously decided to come to us, but we, you know, and they came via Hawariki just because they it was referred by Richard Kershaw, but really that's not really a matter for us, it's a broader matter. And then my only other comment would be in terms of traditional, the way our tipuna and tohunga named things. I mean, naming, as we all know, is very important, but who do we have, you know, to help us with that process around naming? Because that feels like a significant thing. And even if we, you know, and is there an opportunity to leverage? I'm all about, do we know someone else that is doing this well? And part of the research that we might do is to find, you know, someone else that's already doing this well. That's all. I mean, but I'm rather inviting you guys, because this is something that's not unique to us, but it's a very important issue, and we want to do it well.
Cool. Hey, do you think it's fair to say, because this is a couple asking to name their pond, Kawi, but do you think it's a fair thing for us to say as a committee to deny that particular name because we are supporting an application to rename the whole development of Kawi?
They want to name their property.
Oh, yeah.
It's a property.
I know.
No, name it, and because it's got the 2 ponds, they were told that was the name of the land.
So I think that this one's come in earlier, and that they've purchased the block, same development, and done some research, come up with Manu Kāwiri, and then this has happened, and that, you know, so it's tied together basically.
I have to probably, I mean, we've already said that we would support Harvey and Lee's application in saying that the development of the whole subdivision is called Manu Kāwiri, and, you know, Harvey's produced a whole lot of whakapapa that supports that. So I don't think we can support one individual owner calling their property the whole thing, but actually it belongs to the whole area.
But hang on, now I'm getting confused, because it's Moiki. Yeah. So they're not. I didn't take from that they were looking at changing the name of that area, because the name it already has one.
They want to name their property.
Yeah, so that's these people. But what I'm saying is
they were talking about the subdivision being.
So they were just talking about just the subdivision being called.
Name Rapa, getting rid of that and calling it what it should be called was Manu Kāwiri is what Harvey.
So that they were talking about the subdivision.
Yeah.
And is this property part of that subdivision?
Yes.
Well, not. Yeah. I'm not 100% sure.
We don't.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But who was the person they got their research from?
Richard. So the email they talk about getting it, having put it all with Richard Kershaw. But I guess for me, if Harmy was aware, given I think there's an opportunity, like, to deny someone when they had no prior knowledge, and, you know, they're concurrently running a different process. I just wonder if Harmy was aware that this whānau who are already there or bought the property, he might be able to come up with a suggestion that works for all. He hasn't got that.
Actually, there's no reason why there can't be other names that tie in with Manu Kāwiri that may actually fit, because they do have the 2 ponds. So that could actually be a nice link in, and then get some of the other people within the subdivision to also be looking at what's the good names.
My grandparents are very dear.
Yeah.
What is the whakapapa there is ours. It's our intellectual property.
Yeah.
So I should have said there was a conflict. You know, you're not supposed to say there's a conflict of interest No, that's the reason why I'm here, I thought.
Yeah, that's not, I don't think it's a conflict of interest, but you're saying that you would have preferred, when we were asked, if we would support.
These people that are asking the Hawariki Marae for a name over this
Yeah,
It's, see how that,
Can it copyright you?
and if it was given by Richard, see how it conflicts with ours?
yeah. No, I don't believe Richard gave them that name, but I don't know that for a fact, but he just told them.
So that's what
Yeah,
it's going to be called, and he's right. It's got, it's not necessarily those ponds, that's not how Harvey described it either.
No.
But the thing is to change the
See,
name
this is what I have a problem with our whakapapa is, when people tell it, are we all telling the same story because it comes back to us?
Yeah, and so that's
us, and that's our cultural values.
But so would that be the right thing to do for these people to perhaps make contact with Hami, who's already done the?
I think it's, a development, what are the rest of the people going to do? Because from what I know, there's only one section that hasn't been sold.
Yeah, but if the development site can be changed and we can put that forward as, so if we put forward one that we support what Hami's done, and then the other thing that we could look at doing is getting these other people in touch with Hami, who's already done the research on that, and to perhaps help to find the name of.
Can I just comment? I've been through this one at home, the same thing. I live on Longwood Road and my house is called Longwood. And I registered the Longwood, but you cannot register a geographical site. So therefore I believe you're leaving yourself open. If you actually consent to this person could then register the name as the name of their homestead or their property. And it becomes their intellectual property. And you are then in a position where if there's any trouble, if somebody wants to add something to it, I mean, we were called Longwood, next door to us wanted to be called Littlewood. And that was a debate I had. And I think the intellectual property is then moving. I'll be very careful.
I was just thinking, because he's been thinking about tying the name in with the two ponds on their section, that why couldn't we go back, and I was just actually looking at Māori dictionary now at different words for pond. I was thinking of punarua.
Puna.
Yeah.
Or
not because otherwise it really.
Or hapua is another.
I don't think we can do the two. We can't say yes to that couple. And
No,
but what we can do is we can help to guide them.
Yeah, that's the right place.
So
I think it can be just, we don't have to make it complicated.
No.
I was just thinking we could just suggest to them that because that name has actually been allocated for the whole subject.
Yeah, that's right.
And as a tipuna name, and as a whakapapa name.
Yep.
And that if you would like to link it to your two ponds, then here's a couple of suggestions.
That's a better way. Much better way to go.
That are just translations of two ponds.
Yeah. Okay, well, shall we?
And then
this came to you guys, Tony and Nathan. So how do you guys feel about that as a resolution? Is that we write a letter and just explain that we can't give that name to you because it's actually it's been sought for the whole development and that is a whakapapa name. And that, but here are some suggestions. And maybe Suzanne, you can fire through three suggestions that might be appropriate for this couple.
Yeah, I'll just look at different names. For pond, you know.
I do agree, I love that
it's nice that they want to use the real
names, and whakapapa names because, it just comes back to that kōrero around, when you bring these names back to life, you are reaffirming yourself as Māori. And so, I do like the use of original whakapapa names, and I think that's quite appropriate. As the development. So are you happy with that, Tony, Nathan? Does that sound okay? If we do a letter of that?
Yeah, look, I mean, so these people reached out for guidance on it and taking it through Hauriki, and that was when it was discussed to bring it here because of the kōrero that had been had beforehand, and that it needed to go back to Mana Whenua for discussions around that area. It's what's appropriate. So so we haven't done anything with it other than bring it to the table and make sure that it follows the right channels so that they can be given the best information.
Yeah, an explanation and some guidance.
It's not for us to tell them what they can and can't call their property. It's up to them to be directed to communicate with Mana Whenua. and find out what's appropriate.
So you're saying we can't tell them we can't say
Well, I think we can.
No, you can't.
it's Manukawari.
Yeah, I think we can if it's already
They
been
can't
used.
just cut themselves to a name like that.
Yeah, they can.
I don't think they've asked, they're seeking us to tell them,
So I
yeah
think
or
we should say
nay.
no.
We can explain to them what's
Yeah.
happened and what the process is.
I think
And
Yeah,
Harmy's
and
details are
we
there.
have a discussion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Harmy's obviously really open to it too, so he would be more than, yeah.
I must say I did get confused because when they were talking and I had read this already and I thought, because in my mind that was, I don't know about any old owner, taking a name like that. And I actually thought it was the same thing, one and the same thing, and I was confused between property and subdivision. And then reading this, it is a totally separate request. It's quite coincidental, isn't it?
It is, it's
I think
amazing.
we're doing better
And
for
finally-
Māoridom to rename that development, name that whole space. Manukau, because you are real and there's the whakapapa behind it to support it. So, yeah. Because it's.
Yep.
You can draft a letter and you can put your eyes across it and be happy.
Would be interesting to see how the other properties.
Well, that's what's happening down at the Great
One
One.
lady and another,
Yeah,
all of them wanted to have names.
The developer's naming streets after his grandkids.
No,
Is that what he's doing?
he's wanting to. Yeah, I don't think it's that way.
I think we're here now. Let's go to-
Well, just on that, I think the one that we had next door, with the Featherston, coming in
For names.
ask for names really highlights the importance of getting this process in place and the significance of the appropriate resource for the mapping work that's been started to really be ramped up and carried on, because that's what's going to be really important to put that balloon up or raise that red flag so that things stop, because ultimately when we're talking about all of this, it needed to be right back at the start where the development was wanting to take place, and that should have been stopped straight away.
That's right.
End of story. None of this would be even taking place right now.
Does anybody have a whakapapa they want to share?
I don't tell you, I have actually.
Oh, you do?
I was doing a little bit of research on climate change and I got this quote from a livable climate based in Boston in USA. And it goes, togetherness is what makes nature work, and togetherness with each other and with nature is what urgently needed for people to start to work towards healing our guts, our land and our climate. And I don't know who it was, but he was based in Boston, and that quite touched me. Yeah.
Someone to accept that report. Can I have someone to accept the chairperson's report? A seconder, please.
I'll second it.
All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, please say no. The motion is carried. Thank you everyone for being, there is no further business. But one thing I wanted to say is, I just wanted to acknowledge Teresa and just say thank you, because when those resource consent applications come out, and we all know they're like, pages and pages and pages. And then you always respond to Steph or whoever sent it out, or Harriet. And I was like, oh my gosh, you've read the whole document. And I was like, oh, kia ora, thank you for doing that, because I can't do it. But I know that you must meticulously go through and you're looking for information. Always open discussion. Can I get to a copy?
So first of all, unuhia. So 2 unuhia to start with, and then go into the rest of it.
Okay.
So this, shall I lead it then? Say together. Unuhia. Unuhia ki te uru tapunui, kia wātea, kia māma, te ngākau, te tinana, te wairua, I te ara takatū. Hoia rā e rongo whakairia ake ki runga. Tūturu whakamaua kia tīna. Tīna, hui e tai.
Ora.